Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Dummer, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of JsBizTechPhilly.com and Statewide News Service.
Well, Rabbi, today we have a really special guest with us. We have a New York State Senator, Betty Little. She's a close friend. I consider you a close
Absolutely.
friend. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here because I remember your predecessor, Ron Stafford, and Ron is in Adirondack, and you represent several counties of the Adirondacks. So
I do. Warren, Washington, Essex, Clinton, Franklin, and parts of St. Lawrence County.
And Washington, right, parts of Washington, right?
That's a big
All-
area
just
to
about
cover, though.
It's about the size of Connecticut.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
But
48 school districts.
And you were first elected in 2002. You're serving your sixth term.
And before that, I was in the Assembly for 7 years.
Wow. And you're going to be 75 this year?
Yeah.
I thought you were 39.
I didn't know that was part of the show.
Mark, you don't know arithmetic. I say 39. That's
I
all.
just can't believe it. That's incredible.
Well,
that's
that's
great.
nice. I know.
But it's important for people to know how, energetic and how, you're not, there was a state senator from New York City, from Queens, Marty Knorr, and we called him Marty Snore because that's all he did was doze off. And, you're just the opposite. You're full of vim and vigor. So I think it's important for people to know that you're, at the
Well,
age
I
that
always
you're
say
at.
raising 6 children was my best preparation for this, but you were always busy.
Yes.
And I've just always been busy and enjoy being busy, meeting new people and
Is that the
trying to make
busyness
a
or the
difference.
negotiating between kids? I know I have a lot
Well,
of
that's-
kids.
that's
You
a
have to
good
be a
part.
real good negotiator also.
That has
anyway.
been helpful, and having 6 different opinions all at once.
Well, you not
It's,
only have 6 children, but you have 15 grandchildren.
I am blessed. I really am.
Unbelievable.
It's
That's
very
phenomenal.
nice. Yeah.
So you must be you must have all the birthday parties or birthdays staggered, and you
I
must
do.
know.
I do. I
That
have
must keep you busy.
3 in February and 4 in March, though. So these are busy months. But
And in 2009, you wanted to run for Congress?
for 2 days, it only lasted 2 days. So I was
your sanity came
I was
back?
not selected. So that
Because
was
the
it.
congressional district is larger, and it's the state of what? It's as large as this.
Oh, it's the largest. Well, it wasn't the largest. John McHugh's was the largest, and this would have been the one that Senator Gillibrand had.
Right.
And that's not quite as large, although it went all the way down to Poughkeepsie.
Right.
I, on the second day of my campaign, I drove with a friend 524 miles visiting, some of the county
Different
chairmen and all that kind of thing. And
much
we had
territory.
just lost the Senate.
Right.
And by 1, and so we were down by 1, and truthfully, my fellow senators were not keen on the idea of losing another senator, so I didn't get any assistance.
But now
Put it
you're
that
up
way.
by 1
But
this
if-
new session,
Yeah.
right? You're
Actually,
up by 1.
well, 2 with
Really?
Simca makes
Felder,
2.
right,
Yeah.
yes. And he's a good team player for the
He
Republicans?
is. He's
yeah?
a great guy. He really is. I really enjoyed getting to know him, and he's a sketch.
Well,
So-
did you hear what happened?
We
this
did,
week about-
yeah.
he-
We called him our hero, and somebody
he-
gave him a Superman emblem to wear.
Really?
He caught a burglar who was shoplifting 4 containers of Taster's Choice, and he ran after him, and he caught him, and he got.
We
some
had him
other-
on the show. He's not a tough guy,
But
Yeah.
he's.
I mean, you have Congressman Chris Gibson. All right,
Right,
he's a
yeah.
military man. That's one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But
Well, that's it,
the
so.
Simcha's not a military man.
So and then your degree is in elementary school.
Education, yes.
Yeah,
I
elementary
actually
education.
taught 4.5 years, and
And your
then I
former-
was a stay-at-home mom for 19 years. And then I became a county legislator
But you were in real
representing Queensbury.
estate?
Yeah, someplace along the line. I did real estate for a few years, but
Okay.
that was after I was in the county legislature. Yeah,
So
I was
you've
there for
always
9.5 years, and then I ran for the assembly 7 years, and then in 2002 I ran for the
So
Senate.
you're a real people person.
Oh, I love people.
Yeah.
I've just been, and sometimes when I'm in a classroom, the kids will say, "What's the best part of your job?" And I'll say, really, it's all the people that I've met, and really hardworking people in the Adirondacks and the North Country, trying to make a living, provide for their families, do good in their communities.
But you know,
huge
that's interesting.
volunteerism.
Mark brings on many assembly people and senators, and just many of them are lawyers. So this is very interesting that, I mean, there's obviously many non-lawyers, and you are one of them.
Right.
How much do you think that helped you? I mean, maybe compared to just law, like you say, people, not just also a born politician, meaning not knowing he's born with it, but right after law school, they just get into politicians, and people always criticize those kind of people because they're not in tune with the people. They just went to Ivy League, and now they're in the Capitol, and they're not in tune with the people, like you're saying you are.
Yeah, and you have to learn to listen to people. Sometimes that's a challenge, but you know, you learn so much from them, and just getting around my district and meeting all the people, and so many good causes and so many issues, and you know, things that we're trying to do, improve the cell coverage, get more broadband. We have to bring the North Country into the 21st century, really. And we're finding that it's not just for the economic value to have more jobs there. All of our schools have declining enrollment, so we need more year-round residents, and you're not going to get them without jobs. So broadband is a way to
means
do
more
it.
cell towers. I mean,
And
I'm a
internet.
rabbi, I'm not such
Yeah,
a
and
internet.
internet service.
You must have been cheering when the governor mentioned it in his State of the State.
I was, and I went to the opening. They did an announcement up in Lake Placid the week before that I went to as well. But
And so what would that mean for the people in your district?
well, for one thing, we have a lot of second homes and second home people who come up on vacation.
They expect
They
those
would
kind of
stay
things.
extra days. They would be able to work from home for a week, maybe 2 weeks during the summer. And some entrepreneurs in the telecommunications types of business where they could, today you can work from any place.
Right.
And have a nice home, and schools are good, and activities, recreation, outdoors. It's just a beautiful place to live throughout the Adirondacks. And if you have a job, it's a better place to live. So it's very, very important for us in that way. And it's also important for safety.
But when you talk about broadband, and I know we're going to get to the cell towers that you were segueing over to, but when you talk about safety, but when you talk about broadband, what would that do for people who want access to the internet, or
Yes.
is it more than that? I mean, do you have to get a cable company to string the wires?
But
Because it's
they're on
not
the
affordable.
telephone lines,
The-
and yes,
yeah.
you have to get them the broadband that way.
So is the state going to pay
Well, the
the
governor
Time
had,
Warner cable to string the wires, or?
they have had grants to help broadband companies in underserved areas, very rural areas where there is no broadband. And Connect New York was a program recently with $25 million, and I was happy my district won the largest chunk of money of any other district out of it. And they have been able to move for better broadband coming down through Tupper Lake, going into Long Lake and along the way. There's so many rural areas. You can drive for miles and not see much of anything. But
Well, I know, because I camp at 13th Lake, which is on the Warren,
North
Hamilton
Creek
County
and
border.
North River needs
Right.
more, believe
And
me.
when I go tenting, I don't, I want to close out the world. I don't want to be
Well, you
connected.
do unless you fall and
So-
break your leg, and then you'd like to be found.
There you go.
And they just found a fellow because of his cell phone. And in the winter, they have found some hikers who are lost in the woods because of their
the
cell
phone
phones.
beeps or something,
Yeah,
or there's a
and
signal.
they can get their whatever
and
to
there's
know
no,
their.
and if there's no broadband, you can't get that Wi-Fi
Well,
signal, or?
You have to have some fiber with the phone lines,
Right.
and electricity for the cell towers and all of that. So it is complicated, but we need more of it. And you're talking about the cell towers. We lost a man on the Northway who was
Rabbi.
yes,
Yeah.
and actually he died after 13 hours in the car. And they were only like 100 feet from the road. They could hear the cars going by, and nobody could find them. They couldn't get out of the car. I talked to his wife on the telephone, and she had lost part of her foot, and it's just, she was in the car for 31 hours. So, it's an international highway. There's no reason not to have better cell coverage on it. We have those emergency call boxes, and they're still used once in a while, but cell phones are so much more popular, and almost everyone has one, and they can make that phone call
So have you
and get
worked
help
out
for somebody.
you've worked out the cell
We
tower?
almost. We
not yet.
still do not have coverage between exit 30. When you get to the rest area just before exit 30, you lose your cell coverage. until you get to 31. Once in a while, you can type out a message, an email. We'll go through.
So what's the problem with that particular area?
I believe that Verizon right now is getting ready to put up 2 towers on
Okay.
private land near the Northway and get the towers up.
And
that
they're
will help.
small, they're lower, they're not like,
Well, the biggest problem is they said nothing could be higher than 42 feet. Well, you don't get very high when the trees around you are higher than 42 feet, and you're not going to get much coverage. The APA has gotten better on the issue,
Adirondack Park Agency.
the Adirondack Park Agency, but
Well,
it-
which regulates all of
yeah.
what goes on.
But there was a case at Paul Smith College where they have about 900 students, so they have plenty of people to use their cell phones.
Yeah.
And trying to put up a tower, they asked for an 85-foot tower. In the end, the tower was approved at 65 feet. Now, if it had been 85 feet, it would have had better coverage for Route 30, which has no cell coverage on it, and it's a pretty remote road that goes by Paul Smith.
Been on
So, yeah, we just need to, we need it. That's all there is to it. And the broadband for school children, they're talking about them having to take all these tests on a computer. Well, if your only practice or work with a computer is in school and in the classroom, you're at a disadvantage if you're not that familiar with using a computer when you go to take the test.
Right.
And another child who has been using a computer since they were 2 years old is taking the same test. So,
Well, this harkens back to the days when they didn't have phone lines going through the Adirondacks. And somehow, maybe 9X, New York Telephone back then, whatever it was, decided to, put up the telephone poles. And I'm sure that, 70 years ago or more, there were the same discussions going on.
they were looking for more phone booths with
You know.
public telephones so that they could use them. You're right. But today, we're not going to get young people to come and live in the Adirondacks. They're so used to being able to do things on the internet
Right.
and have access to a cell phone. So,
That's a segue also to the idea of employment. I know, like you were just saying, the population has gone down, and people saying, and the jobs aren't there. This would be a major step to come, like you say, to the 21st century and let everybody have internet. Is there
Right.
any other ways to populate the area, or some people don't even want to populate it, I guess, if they end
That's
around
the
that
other
park
part
is
of
had.
it. People
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, that's the
in
issue.
actuality, the biggest employer in the Adirondack Park is government. Between the prison systems, between Sunmount and the group homes and all that they have, and then you have the
towns and
towns, the
villages.
villages, the counties, and the school districts, the state police, the DEC, the APA, and as the state right now is actually taking some of the business office people and taking them to Albany, and the personnel office out of their state offices up in the North Country and bringing them to Albany. And my thought is Albany doesn't need more jobs, but the North Country can't afford to lose them. So it's very difficult. And I did have 12 state prisons, and
Yeah.
9 are left. So that's a lot of job loss too. Most of those people found other jobs. Some had to move out of the area.
Well, it's interesting because I once asked Governor Mario Cuomo what his legacy would be, or you had Rockefeller was the Sunni, and Kerry was getting this New York City out of debt and going bankrupt. So he says, "I'm the governor who built more prisons than any other governor." Now,
His
you
son has
don't-
closed them.
and his son is
Well,
closing
you
more,
can't have prison-
more than any
You
other.
can't create inmates just to have prisons, I agree. But so the inmate population has dropped, and we've had to. But a loss of a prison in the North Country is really has a huge impact.
Yes.
And as the families move away, they're usually younger, and they have young children who would have populated the school districts. And
Right.
as
Maybe-
teachers get laid off, that happens.
Tourism would be probably,
You
to
chair
build up.
she
I
chairs
do
the
chair the
tourism.
tourism.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
very, very important to our area. And Governor Cuomo has really put more money into tourism.
Well, you've been
And
on the rafting in his.
I've been rafting, I've
Yeah.
been snowmobiling, I've been fishing, and I'm
Because
trying
the
to think.
governor has this whole to-do in the Adirondacks where he takes any elected official, even up from New York City, and
Right.
they go either skiing or in the winter, or they go rafting in the summer, and he makes a big deal about it. And the reporters.
Like for the touring? Or
Yeah,
what's the
to
big deal?
promote
Yeah,
tourism.
it's for a
To
day. It's for a day.
Yeah, to
But a lot of
promote
these
tourism.
people have never been north of Albany, and it really has worked. I mean, so many assembly members, some other senators from the city have come up, and I think the proof of it is I had 2 constitutional amendments to pass the year before last, and I was able to get them passed, and there wasn't all the conflict that there usually is, you know, that, you know, what are
Right,
you
the amendments
doing? You're
about the
taking away some
Adirondacks.
state land, and we don't have enough. There's
What were
plenty
the
of land.
amendments about?
Well,
About
one-
the Adriatic Park?
Yes, one was to resolve a land title in Racket Lake. There was a contested title as to whether the state owned the property or the people owned the property. And this 100-year title was very confusing. But in the end, the people had been paying the taxes on it, and Commissioner Martens and the DEC really worked on this and came up with a resolution. Before that, we had had like 5 years of meetings and had
Right.
not gotten any solution. And whatever we get to, there'd be a group that didn't agree with it. So this is good. Those people are paying money into it. They'll have a clear title. They then adhere to the Adirondack Park Agency rules, and life goes on. And they get another big parcel of land added to the
Well, you
forest
must be
reserve.
a hero to that family.
Well, and Assemblywoman Teresa Sayward worked really hard
Yes,
on that too.
yeah.
And then the other one was we have a mining company in Willsboro. They mine wollastonite, which is used in plastics and paint and cars and different things. And they employ about 100 people, 125 people, and they wanted to expand into 200 acres adjoining their mine, which they believe has more wollastonite, which is like the best vein in the world. And
Otherwise, they would have
In
had
order
to go
to do it-
deeper
right.
if they didn't get this.
well, if
passed,
they
yeah.
didn't get that, they would have finally run out of
Well,
wollastonite.
there was more. It just had to go deeper.
And be more expensive,
Expensive,
make
right,
it worthwhile
yeah.
to do it.
It
So,
wouldn't run out.
so this way, we have a constitutional amendment, and the state will get, I think it's 1,500 acres to replace the 200 acres that's right next to the mine existing. Was not really valuable land, and they will have more recreational land and better land in the end. So NICO, that's the name of the company, is actually testing the land now to see that the vein is worthy and worthwhile. And they also, you know, they pay the state like $1 million so to do this. But it will keep those jobs there and keep that mining in existence. And the Adirondacks really was known for mining. We had Republic Steel in Mineville and Lion Mountain. We had
Well, garnet.
garnet mines are still
And you
there
know
in
what-
North Creek and North River.
And you know what garnet's used for?
Yeah, for
Emery boards,
Yes, yeah,
what you file your nails with.
yeah. It's
the
very
only-
strong. Yeah, it's a
They
great
still
company.
use it?
Yeah,
They still
Barton
use emery
Mines.
boards.
Oh yeah, they work and
Yeah.
they do a lot of things around the country with that.
And I'm just amazed how the streets look of red, like they have a red tingle, because it's the ore is in the air. And when they pave the roads, you can't help but have it part of the road. And it's so minute that it's in the air and it doesn't harm humans, but it's there and you've got like a little red road. It's a glistening
Yeah.
red.
Yeah, yeah. John Cornwell was a gemnologist who developed ways of cutting the garnet for beautiful jewelry pieces, and he only had one arm. He had lost an arm in an accident, and when he died, his wife Helen had his garnet. You know, the stone with all the little garnet in it as it's there.
Wow.
So it's very nice.
Wow.
But it's very well known for that. And then in Newcomb, you know, we had National Lead. In Ticonderoga, we had graphite, the Ticonderoga pencils that were made with graphite from there.
Sure.
So we have been a mining community, and certainly logs are a type of mining, and we're a big logging community too. So.
Lewis County in New York State is the second largest timber and lumber producers in the country.
Right,
With, I think, Oregon, next to Oregon.
really,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so we're number 2.
Well, and
That's
as
how
a,
big it is.
And
People
as a
don't
result
think
of all the trees and the logging, we
Yeah.
have International Paper in
Right.
Ticonderoga, which employs over 600 people. And we also have Finch Prine in
Right.
Glens Falls, another paper producer, and they support.
And they downsized.
Yeah, but
They're
they
still
have
there,
several
yeah.
hundred employees,
Right.
good jobs. So can't afford to lose those jobs either. But tourism is important, and we're working on trying to develop more seasons. We have snow this year. Lots of skiing and sliding for the school vacations. We always want snow for the vacations.
So I wanted to get into, if you don't mind, do you have, you're opposed gun control for the most part? Is that a position?
I am. I think there are ways that
Okay.
we can, hopefully, now that we have the Senate majority, make some changes to the gun bill. One of the things that becomes a problem is that you would have to, every time you bought ammunition, they would have to do a background check on you. And I had a small gun shop owner in Greenwich, New York, which is right near the Vermont border, called and he said, well, if someone went to Vermont and bought ammunition, would they have to do a background check? And I said, no. He said, well, I will lose my business. I might as well close my store. And what are they doing with the information? And how can you really keep track of what someone is buying? Because they can buy it elsewhere. They're not just buying it in New York. So hopefully that has never been put into effect yet. And hopefully we can change that.
Do you own any guns?
I don't personally, no.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
The other idea is that the crimes back yourself up as much as the crime is illegal ownership anyway. You know, a robber's not going to sign up, give me some bullets, and then go to the bank and, you know.
They haven't obeyed any laws yet.
Right.
So why would they go and obey this law? And to get a pistol permit, I went up and sat with the person in the county clerk's office, figure out how this actually works. So if you have a pistol permit, and it takes a long time to get one, you have the guns listed on your permit, on your card, and you want to buy a new gun. You could come to Albany and buy a gun. You pay for the gun, you get a receipt, you can't take the pistol with you. You have to go back to the county clerk's office, show them what you bought, what it is, and they give you what they call a coupon and register it on your card. You then take the coupon back to the store, and now you can pick up the gun. Plus, they do background checks, and you know that we've lived with that, and that's the way it has been. I think that the mental health component is important, but that in itself, you know, we have to work harder to get people to recognize mental illness, particularly parents and their children, that they might need some help and not to be ashamed to go and get the help. There still is quite a stigma about mental health issues.
Yeah, you're right.
And you know, those are the people, when they come to see me, that I have such empathy for, because you know, we go out and march for the March of Dimes and juvenile diabetes and you know, cystic fibrosis, and nobody has marches for those who have mental illness.
It's interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Let me ask you another issue that you support is shared services. You talked about all the levels of government that are in the in your district. I mean, is there any way to bring
I've
some
tried.
of these?
I've tried,
you
yeah.
know?
Been singing
But
that song for a while because
No one wants to?
well,
People
it's a
don't
loss of jobs. And if there aren't a lot of other jobs around to take their place, they're not too interested in
So is
losing
this an
those
unpopular
jobs.
position for you in your district?
I think people are used to me. They know I'm doing it. I know I'm always looking for ways. And it's sharing services. A lot of our towns and villages do share services when they're building a highway or road repair and things like that. But they need to do more of it. And I have a village in Salem, New York that is now going to dissolve, and the information will be taken over by
Which
the town.
village?
The village of Salem and the
Salem.
town of Salem.
Uh-huh.
You know where it is.
Yeah.
Mark is he knows every city probably and their
Yeah.
population
And
their,
what roads go through and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah,
He-
it's
he
right on the
knows his
Vermont,
stuff.
right on the
Right.
Vermont border.
So,
And,
Why? Because they couldn't handle it. That would be the reason for them. The money.
well,
it
there is
just
a
isn't worth
savings.
it.
When you have
Yeah.
a village and you have a town, you have one attorney, or if you combine them, you would have one attorney, you'd have one insurance policy, one liability policy,
Yeah.
one mechanics for your vehicles.
But the village has a police department, but the town doesn't.
Well, in towns that have done that, like in Ticonderoga, they made the village police department cover the town. They go where the calls are.
So they don't
The
lose.
calls are usually
They
in-
don't lose the police department.
No, they didn't lose their police department.
Okay.
And actually in Ticonderoga, at one time, the village had the old buildings and the shops and that kind of thing. And then Fort Ticonderoga was in the town. And there wasn't a lot of, we are Fort Ticonderoga, we're all one. And once they dissolved the village,
Yeah.
then you had the whole town trying to revitalize the downtown
Sure.
and the merchants. So.
Let me just ask you one other thing about shared services. If Tupper Lake is divided by two counties?
No,
No, which is the
Saranac Lake is.
Saranac Lake, sorry.
Saranac Lake
Okay,
is
so-
divided by two counties and
That's right.
3 towns.
No, but it's two counties, so it's Essex and Hamilton?
No, it's Essex and Franklin.
Franklin, okay, Essex and Franklin, that goes right through the town. So if you live on the Franklin County side, you can get your social services and DMV and everything right in Saranac Lake. But if you live in the Essex County side, you got to go 30 miles to Elizabethtown to get everything that you need, all your needs
Right.
taken care of. I'm sure this is an issue that's come up
It's an
for you.
issue, but the biggest
And
deterrent.
can you do something in terms of shared services? I mean, in terms of making it,
You could try, because
Can
the
you
two
try?
counties could, work together so that Franklin County Social Services might cover the people that are in the village of Saranac Lake,
seems-
even though they live in Essex. But what happens is no one will give up their property values because of the property tax that they need. So someone's not going to say, you can have our part of that village and get the property taxes. But there is a way to work it out. So somebody collects it. The village of Saranac Lake is mostly in the town of Harrietstown.
Yeah.
That's the biggest portion of it. And they could run the whole thing and advocate, get money from the other 2 towns.
because it seems like a waste for
North
people on the
Albany.
Essex County side to have to go 30 miles each way just
Yeah.
to get their DMV and social services and everything else that the
Right.
that the
Well, the
state-
village of Keysville, which is in Essex and Clinton County, right
Right.
on the border, they just voted to dissolve.
Uh-huh.
And they will go partly to the town of Aussable and partly to the town of Chesterfield.
Oh,
So they will do it that way. It's easy for a village to dissolve in one, and I had a mayor who said to me, the town justice had died, and he said, I'm thinking of dissolving, not having a village, court anymore. And I said, that's a good idea, and you can just turn it over to the town. He said, well, I don't think the town wants it. I said, they don't have a say. You just dissolve the village,
That's
it's
right.
theirs. The village is in the town, people are paying town tax
Yeah,
and
yeah.
village
Yeah.
tax
Provide the service.
So-
and county tax and school tax. It's just it's got to be some way. You go down south, and I have kids that live in Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And just about everything, you either live in a county or a city. There's nothing else. And some of the cities are practically the whole county. So,
So let me, just because we have just a few minutes, and we are the Jewish view here, as Rabbi Simon famously says, you have 7 synagogues in your district. In Plattsburgh, you have a new Chabad center that opened up. That was really nice. Have you met the rabbi there yet?
I haven't met him yet,
Okay,
but I
so
will get to
they
him.
had the first menorah lighting in
I
December.
did, and I ended up having
And
company that day.
But that was, so that they're really trying to inspire Jewish continuity here at Plattsburgh. Malone has a conservative, I believe, conservative synagogue. Tupper Lake is on the Historic National Registry. They have mainly in the summer, but they have
Summertime.
a beautiful, beautiful synagogue. Lake Placid has one that's
been there.
open all year long.
Yeah.
And you've been there.
I spoke there one time.
And what were your impressions of the synagogue?
It was very lovely.
Yeah.
It is,
And Glens Falls has 2 synagogues.
I've been to both of those.
And they have and Lake George, I got to tell
Well,
you.
you'll have to show me that one this summer.
Yeah, there's Rabbi Rubin of the Capital Chabad. He puts up a tent and brings up some Torahs, and he has minyanim there, 3 times a day, and it's just a wonderful experience.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it is
that's
nice.
in Lake George. And then I also wanted to say in our final minute, you chair the Cultural Affairs, Tourism, Parks, and Recreation Committee. You're a member of the Crime Victims, Crime and Corrections Committee, and Education Committee, Environmental Conservation Committee, Finance and Judiciary. Okay. So
Rules and energy.
Rules and Energy. Okay, that wasn't on your website.
It keeps
Okay.
you busy, I'm sure it did. You got
So
a
I
lot.
have to ask you about judiciary. What's the process with Leslie Stein going to the Court of Appeals?
She'll appear before the committee.
When?
Well, I think it's pretty soon. But I
It should
think
be, right?
It should be, yes. I've met
Okay.
with her, and she
You
is very,
have?
very nice, yes.
Okay.
Very well qualified, and certainly.
Jewish?
Well, she's very qualified,
I'm just
that's for
joking.
sure. Yeah, yeah, I think she'll
She's
be
been on the
great.
show.
We had a really nice time talking and visiting, and
Okay.
so.
Excellent.
So I just wanted
And
to.
I have not met the other candidate for the
Okay.
second
Right, from
judicial
Buffalo.
post, right?
Yes.
But I think we probably will end up doing both of them the same time. I'm not
Okay.
positive. We haven't had a judiciary committee meeting yet.
Well, you know I'll be there.
Good.
Okay.
Mark will
great
be
to have you.
reporting.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you very much, Senator, that you're doing a great job, and maybe I'll have to come with Mark to the Adirondacks and stir up some
Absolutely.
tourism.
Okay.
I thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Love
Keep
it.
on going with your good work with good health.
Yes.
Thank you
All
very
the best of
much.
success.
Thank you.